welcome to the Well-Rounded Warrior, and thanks for watching. Today I have my favorite lawyer, Dana McLendon.
What's up?
And we are going to talk about some things that he has a little bit of experience in. So you are an expert in getting people unmarried. So
I'm an internationally recognized expert in relationships.
there you go.
Yeah.
All right. So now that said, now this is topical because I am getting married in a month. So now, not just to me, but what kind of advice would you give somebody who is thinking about getting married or is about to get married?
Okay. So you've got selection, deselection, and then execution, right?
Right.
Okay. So this particular piece, I would say, is applicable to grown-ups, like people that are, mature. I would not suggest this particular piece for people that are, like my son's age. My sons are 21 and 19. That's different. This would not be what I would suggest to them. But how old are you?
I am 35.
Okay, so if you're 35, or if you've been married before and been down the aisle and done that, and now you're a mature person out there ready to re-engage, I have what I call the two-step, two-date process. Okay, and this is designed to expedite the process of selecting and beginning the deselecting of a potential partner. Right. So first piece is you do not go on a first date with anyone to whom you are not strongly physically attracted. Period.
Right.
Now that seldom needs to be said to men.
Well,
but it can happen.
Right.
But women, my experience has been, will often make all kinds of excuses, apologies, and rationalizations for going on a date with a guy to whom they are not immediately and urgently physically attracted. Oh, he's so nice, or he's really good dad, or he's funny, or whatever. Okay, but you're wasting your time. If you do not have lust for a person, you can't talk yourself into that. And I'm convinced that if you don't have physical chemistry, then you're not really going to end up in a completely fulfilling relationship. So first step, do not go on a first date with anyone that is not someone to whom you are strongly physically attracted. That first date should be brief, sober, and focused. Okay, so I would say maybe meet for coffee during lunch or whatever. No booze, no loud club, just somewhere you can meet in public. Come separately.
right.
And the purpose of that date is to confirm or expose the lust. Right. That's it.
Right.
You want to spend 30 minutes making sure they don't have horrible manners or horns growing out of their head or something you did not know.
Somebody photoshopped a Tinder picture.
Right, yeah, or their Tinder picture was 100 years old or whatever it was. That first date is just to confirm your attraction.
Right.
And then you're out. Okay. Now here's where the second date. This is where you really get into some like pragmatic whittling down. Right. Say second date. You already know you want to do the thing with the person. Okay. So for the second date, you propose the following arrangement. You pick somewhere that's comfortable and cozy. It's got booze that you can hang out. That's intimate. It's quiet. And you propose that you will bring 10 questions, and that the other person will bring 10 questions. And the rules are that you can ask anything you want. Anything. Yes, that. You can ask anything you want. Okay? Right. And the rules are, when asked a question, you can leave, pass, or answer. If you answer, the answer must be the unvarnished, raw, naked, ugly truth. Okay? So, whatever questions you want to ask. And you can go back and forth, and you're allowed to detour and have chit-chat about, so it doesn't have to be just boom, boom, like question, answer. You're allowed to like run down the, and explore an answer or whatever.
Right. Side conversations are encouraged.
Yeah. And you take as long as you need to. Now, I'm going to tell you that if you both get 10 questions answered and no one has bolted, that's a good time to consider going home and doing the thing, right? Because like you've confirmed physical attraction, date 1.
Right.
Date 2, if you have done it smart, you have eliminated deal breakers and found things that could be the foundation upon which a long-term, real, lasting, meaningful relationship could be built.
Right.
And you have heard 10 questions that should give you some insight into how the other person looks at the world and thinks and what their priorities are.
Right.
But you've both had the opportunity, and this could take an hour or 5, You've both had the opportunity to rule out the total deal breakers, right? Like, did you vote for Hillary?
Right. You don't want to hold on to that one.
No.
Like 3 months in.
And then right.
Oh,
like,
by the way, I'm a Democrat.
Right. If that's important, it may not be. Like, but whatever it was, and some questions. And I haven't been on a date a date with a woman that I wasn't married to in decades. So I don't really know for sure how it's happening out there. But I would think that, particularly if you're a mature person, that like things kind of move quickly, and maybe you find yourself 6 months into this thing, and then all of a sudden you either realize you don't know her kid's name, right, or it's too late to ask.
Right.
Like, what's your son's name again? Or you find out something, you go, what?
Yeah, that's something I maybe should have known like 6 months ago.
Yeah, like that's an issue.
Right.
Right? Like, so whatever it may be, you've got 10 questions and answers, and at any time, remember, option 1 is leave. Thank you very much. This has been fun. You're probably an awesome person. We are not going to work out.
Right.
And you haven't spent 6 months. They haven't met your kid. Your dog hasn't grown accustomed or attached to them. They don't have their shit at your house.
Right.
You're out. No hard feelings.
Yep.
Thanks for coming.
No real big investment.
No investment, right? And you've probably had a laugh. Like if you've got any kind of sense of humor, you've probably found something to laugh about, right?
Right.
So now you got past date 2. Okay. Now things start to evolve. All right. Now, at some point, maybe you start to think, I don't know, maybe this is going somewhere or whatever. But before you contemplate getting married, I would say there's a few things you got to do. 1, you got to live together for 12 months.
Right.
You got to. And I realize that this goes against all kinds of religious and moral advice and all that, but I'm a pragmatist. I've been married for 26 years, and I've been a divorce lawyer for 25.
Right.
So I know what works and what doesn't work, and what kind of problems there are. Right. So you got to live together, because if you don't live together, you don't know somebody.
Right, and I think that's especially true for men rather than women, because it's one thing for a couple times a week to pick your dirty laundry up off the couch and maybe wash some dishes. And then
hustle your place up for her to come over.
Right, and then you get married, and then next thing you know, she's like, "Whoa, you're a slob."
Right.
So,
or
that's not the time to find that out.
Right. Or, for example, my wife is a middle squeezer. All right.
Oh.
Yeah. Right. She will absolutely pick up a tube of toothpaste right in the middle, squeeze that shit. I mean, what kind of savage does that? Right. Like that could be a problem.
Man.
Now we have a simple solution. I have my own tube of toothpaste.
Perfect.
And she gets to do whatever she wants with her thing,
Right.
And we don't have that problem. But if we hadn't lived together, I might have been 3 weeks into this relationship, every morning going in there trying to smooth out that tube of toothpaste, getting increasingly resentful.
Right.
Right? Like, and it's those little pieces of resentment that lead up to cracks. And cracks become problems.
Right.
Right?
And the next thing you know, you come home from the bar hammered drunk, and you're like, "You're squeezing the damn toothpaste in the middle."
Right. Yeah. You get mad. You get disproportionately mad about something.
Right.
Only because it's like something you didn't bring up.
Right.
Right. Or like you did bring it up. Maybe you brought it up 10 times, but Man, that chick's 35 years old. She's been a middle squeezer her whole life. That's it. That's what you got.
Right.
If that's a problem, you need to know,
right.
or you need to either get over it, or you need to just buy. You need to accept that, right? So in my house, I have like a little, like almost like an electrician's tray, you know, with a little and all my grooming shit's in that.
Perfect.
And I pop that thing out, put it on the counter, and man, I don't even look at the rest of the closet in the bathroom. There's war paint and all kinds of shit in there, and I don't bother with that, right?
Same reason you don't share shampoo. Like, you got different needs.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to live together for 12 months, okay? Which solves another problem. If you can't bring yourself to live together for whatever reason, you got to at least know somebody for 12 months. And here's why that's important. You got to see somebody, how they react to birthdays, holidays, and seasons. Okay? You got to see how that's going to go, right? Like, if you're the person for whom Christmas is like the be all and end all, and you're singing Christmas carols before Thanksgiving, and you're decorating the house and putting the elf on the shelf out and all that shit, and she's Grinch or he's Grinch,
right.
You need to know. And y'all got to come to some peace about that, right? Like, or maybe her birthday's a big deal. Like in my wife's life, the birthday's a big thing. Like that's your day, and it that's you gotta like go to certain measures to recognize that day. And if you know somebody and fall deeply in love and blah 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 and plan your wedding and run off and get married, and then the first birthday of theirs that you celebrate is 3 months from now, like me, I could give a shit.
Right.
Like whatever. All right, fine.
We'll go out to eat. Like,
yeah,
go to Taco John's or something.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying don't do anything. I'm just saying, like, I won't get upset if it's not a huge thing.
Right.
I don't need it to be a thing. Right. But if I were to presume, like, if I had rushed in, got married, and then 3 months later, the first time I spend my wife's birthday with her, I don't do a big enough thing,
right.
And that's a big thing for her. Well, now we're 3 months into this marriage, and I fucked up.
Yeah.
So you got to at least know somebody for a full 12 months. See how they react to, birthdays, holidays, or whatever. Okay. You should also meet their entire immediate family, or have their absence satisfactorily explained.
For instance.
Okay, so if you are dating someone and you learned that they have a brother, but they never speak to their brother, they never go see their brother is never at any of the events, you need to know what's up with that. Now, if it turns out, well, when we were younger, my brother stole $75,000 from my parents,
right,
and he's never made amends, and we don't include him, okay, all right. But what if you got the crazy one, and the rest of the family knows that, and they've like exiled the one you got?
Right.
You need to come to an understanding that all this whole this family thing on their side's messed up.
Right.
And that may or may not be a deal breaker, but you got to at least go in eyes wide open about that. Because I know lots of people for whom this let's say imbalance in family integration becomes a source of contention and problem, right? Like, or maybe the problem is that like her family is constantly including everyone in everything, and you don't ever really get to pull your little family out and go do something else. Right. Like you constantly get sucked into, Aunt Ruby's birthday party, and you're like, I have never met that old lady. We don't need to pack up and go away 3 hours for 2 days when I would rather have done something else, or whatever, right? So you gotta come to a complete. This helps with the 12 months rule; those kind of go hand in hand.
Right.
But you got to know what kind of family thing you're buying,
right? Because she's probably going to share the same kind of values, or if you meet her parents and they're like off the handle, well, you know that she might be that way too. She's just hiding it.
Yeah.
Or, you know, that's something that'll come on down the line.
Yeah, well, I mean, like many people can put on a show for a period of time.
Right.
Right? Like, many people can be on their best behavior for a little while. Or maybe you're meeting someone coming out of a relationship, and this happens a lot with dudes. Dudes will wind up divorced, doesn't matter why. And dude will decide, well, I'm going to reinvent myself. This time around, I'm going to get it all right. And whatever my faults, flaws, and shortcomings were in that first relationship, I'm going to be an altogether different dude this time.
Right.
Now maybe he sustains that effort to do those things better for a while, but maybe not. So, and a lot of that does have to do with your family, seeing from whence they come,
Right.
So I think you gotta know someone, preferably live with someone for 12 months, and you gotta spend 12 months seeing how they react to everything, and along the way you gotta meet the entire family. Now I'm not saying you gotta sign up to spend every holiday with them or anything like that, but you gotta at least eyeball mom.
Right.
You gotta at least shake hands with dad and be like, what's
Right. What am I getting into?
Right. And siblings and stuff like that, because man, those people, they've been crossing each other up for a long time. Maybe.
Right. If there's anybody that's not going to get along with your significant other, it's probably going to be their sibling.
Often.
Yes.
Often. Now, all right. So off you go. You're going to get married. You've decided to do that thing. That's awesome. I'm going to suggest that this is particularly true for a first wedding, but it's never not true, I don't think. If you plan this thing, now I don't know the first thing about yours, so I hope I'm not stepping on any toes. But
I'm sure you're not.
But I suggest that it is both natural and necessary that the ceremony, that the groom's mother largely be sidelined from the planning.
Right. Well, that's kind of how it is, because my mom lives in Nebraska, so.
Okay. So that's convenient.
Got Molly and her family, and they're doing all the stuff, and it's actually in Molly's parents' backyard. So.
Okay, cool. The reason that I think that that's natural and necessary is that the ceremony is a symbolic event for a lot of things, right? But not later than that day, the groom, has got to elevate his wife to position number one, which sometimes involves demoting his mother.
Right.
Right? And if you've let the groom's mom run and plan and control the whole ceremony, then that demotion, that exchange, that change of command
can be very hurtful.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
And if you leave from the ceremony with any misunderstanding about who the new chick in charge is, you're going to have a rough time.
Right.
So, this often leads to hurt feelings and the groom's mother being upset, disappointed at her role or lack thereof. But it's got to happen. I mean, that doesn't have to be rude.
Right.
But
it's got to be an understanding.
There's got to, she can't be doing everything.
Right.
And that's, that's why the tradition is that the bride's parents pay for the thing, and the groom's parents pick up the tab for the booze and the last supper.
Right.
Right. So, so now you go down the aisle, you get married. At my wedding, my uncle gave me advice that I'll never forget. And to some extent, this is kind of, you may need to follow this advice and hear it during that 12 months,
right,
before you move in together, whatever. But my uncle came to me and he said, so for the first 6 months you're married, don't do anything that you're not willing to do for the rest of your life. So
right, because then you're committed.
Right. If you hate taking out the trash, if that's just something that you hate doing,
right,
don't do it. Because if you do,
you've established.
You've signed up for taking out the trash, and if that's going to be something you hate and that's going to create resentment and whatnot, then so I was like, that's not bad, right? Now you could wind up with bags and bags of trash in the kitchen, and
right,
you got to negotiate that, but something to be said for that.
Right.
And then I guess finally I was at my great uncle's, I don't know, it was like their 70th anniversary party or something. And everybody called him Unc. And so I was with Unc, and he had been married like 70 years. He was like 90. And this is, he's a throwback to the days when you married your high school sweetheart and
Right.
stayed married. So I sat down next to him and I said, Unc, 70 years, how did you do that? And he said, it was very simple. He said, Mabel Houston, his wife, Mabel Houston and I made an arrangement when we got married. I said, all right, what's that? He said, well, we agreed that she would handle all the little decisions and I would handle all the big ones, and we wouldn't step on each other's toes. And I sat there taking that in, thinking that over, kind of thinking, that makes sense, right? You don't have to argue about it. And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, and I'm really looking forward to that first big decision.
Yeah, because that's where do you draw the line? What's a small decision? What's a big decision?
Well, apparently they never got around to drawing that line.
Yeah.
So, I think obviously, it's a joke, but I mean, I think you kind of have to make sure that you only pick things to dig in about that are really, really, really important.
Right.
And that you make clear, hey, this is really important.
Right. And it's actually something that Molly's been very, very good at. Is
Right.
Picking her battles.
Right.
And I am not always the best, but there are some hills that I'm willing to die on, and if she says that she's willing to die on this hill, well, she is very serious.
Yeah. So you should have as few of those as possible.
Right.
But you should illuminate them in advance, right? Like, and this goes all the way back to that second date, right? Like, you should not be finding out these problems or these non-negotiable items
Right.
after you've invited everyone over to drink your beer and watch you get married.
Right.
Right? I think that is the source of a great deal of problems, is that people act out of lust and love and whatnot, man, in the end, it's an ongoing negotiation.
It really is.
And so you need to not be changing the rules or like totally turning things upside down or springing surprises on people. That's not good. Right, like 6 months into this marriage, suddenly you've got this deal breaker issue that never came up.
Right.
Well, that can happen more likely if you rushed off and got married real quick before you spent 12 months living together,
Right.
did the second date with all the, So, I think you've got to have that that understanding, and then I would also end by saying, or end if you like, but you got to understand that forgiveness is not an emotion.
Right.
Forgiveness is a decision, and it's an act.
Right.
And if it's incomplete, then it's incomplete.
Right.
Right.
Like, that's one of those things that you absolutely have to be 100% committed to.
Right.
Like,
forgiveness.
yeah. All right. It's done.
That's it. And you don't. And forgiveness does not mean that you put that transgression in your back pocket and wait and pull it out and hit them over the head when you fucked up.
Right.
Right? Like, it's not a Counter-Strike weapon. It's
Right.
not. It's not something that you use in the next argument.
Right.
If you can't forgive it, then you should get out of that relationship.
Right.
Okay. So I see all these typically girls on Instagram talking about their soulmate, waiting for their soulmate.
All right.
That's asinine. There's no such thing as a soulmate. Imagine how cruel a creator would have to be to create one soulmate for you.
Right.
Here's how that would look. There's a higher power, a creator, a master of a god.
Right.
And here's the joke that God pulls. Josh, I'm sending you down. You'll be born today, and I've put one girl on this planet for you.
Just one.
One.
Shit.
There's 8 billion people down there. Good news, you only have to sort through 4 billion of them to find her. But there's one, and no one else will do.
Right.
That's a cruel hoax, right? And it also almost guarantees failure, because nobody is going to live up to that ridiculous, mythical, unattainable standard of soulmate.
Right.
Everyone, if you care about someone and you spend time with them and you let them become intimate with you in the emotional sense, they will hurt you, because we are flawed, fragile, selfish, imperfect creatures. We do hurt each other.
Right. We are at a most basic level still animals.
We are animals with thumbs and speech.
Right.
And cool gadgets to put, and internet. So you cannot think about soulmates and whatnot. There's no such thing. What you have, hopefully, is you have someone that you like spending time with naked.
Right.
That is willing to forgive you as often and more than you forgive them. That's it. It's a series of negotiations and forgiveness. And hopefully you don't ever cause harm or do wrong that's of a magnitude that cracks the foundation and shatters the thing. But that happens. But hopefully if you stay roughly between the lines of that you've negotiated, then you forgive completely and thoroughly, and you leave that you leave that in the past. You move on and you don't bring that up again. And some people are better at that than others. So,
right.
But that's having been married for 26 years. You're not going to be married for 26 years unless you get forgiveness and give it.
Right.
Unconditionally and permanently. You have to do that.
Right. Well, that's pretty comprehensive.
That's how to find the one.
Right.
That's good enough. Not
Right.
the soulmate, but
it's going to make you
right.
You.
Right. Yeah. That's going to be that's going to work.
Right.
And then how to vet that, right? And then how to sustain that. There's probably other stuff, but
right.
I think.
Well, there's I would say 99% of that has been true for me and Molly. I tell you what I was looking for when I was looking for a potential partner. I was looking for someone that was enough like me to where we had similar interests and we like to do the same things, and we like each other because we're friends. That's how you make friends. Someone that was enough like me to where we were friends, but someone that was different enough that we wouldn't kill each other.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's number one. That's number one. And then to bring us all the way full circle, I got a piece of advice from my uncle when I was probably 18, going to be 19, and I graduated high school, went to college, came back, didn't make it, and didn't have a job, typical 19-year-old, not going anywhere, not doing anything. I was talking about moving in with my girlfriend, and we were talking about getting married or whatever, and he said, "Josh, there's one thing you got to know about girls." I said, "What's that, Uncle George?" He said, "There's a lot of them."
There's a lot of them.
I said, "No shit," and I didn't I took it as disrespectful at the time. Well, that's messed up. I really like this chick. Well, it turns out he was right.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
Well, that's why I think that goes to the soulmate thing.
Right.
Who knows how many people there are that with effort would be perfectly good partners to travel to ride this rock around in space, a few dozen times. I mean, that's
right.
There's probably a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
Right.
But if you don't do your part, it doesn't matter which one you get.
Right.
You're not going to wind up happy about that. So I think it's unfortunate that our culture today has kind of created a disposable relationship phenomenon. I mean, we recycle. All the people that are mindful. Go to great lengths to recycle things and repurpose things, and then we also just create literal mountains of trash because we just throw stuff away. And things are manufactured to be thrown away. Like your average kitchen appliance. My parents, this is kind of symbolic. My parents have blenders and things that were given to them at their wedding,
right,
50-something years ago, that work. And I always joke when my dad breaks out this blender, and I'm like, "Are you giving that to the Smithsonian, right?"
Right.
That blender was made to last them a lifetime.
Right.
We don't make that thing. We don't make things like that anymore. Now your blender takes a crap. You're on Amazon, and another one shows up at your door the next day, and you don't even think about it.
Right.
I think that's spilled over into like relationships. It's like, oh, it turns out you're not my soulmate. Eject, out you go. And it's funny for a guy that makes a living helping people get divorced to say this, but that's sad, because most of the time, if you were mindful about it and you made an effort, what would you do? What would you do if there weren't a lot of them? What would you do if, like, you were in a small village with only 4 women and 3 of them were taken, and you got one, you came with a partner.
Right.
All the other women that are in your universe are not available. What would you do? You try a little fucking harder to get along with the one you got.
Just saying.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's not to condemn divorce or people that get divorced. Like too many people, I think, go into it without like fully being prepared for it. We're now into, I don't know what, the 3rd or 4th generation, maybe, or maybe more, of people who commonly grew up in divorced families.
Right. It was like late 60s.
Yeah,
when women got empowered and actually were able to.
Right, the pill and going to work and getting. I mean, and I'm not saying any of those things are bad. That's another hour-long video.
Right.
But it's normal now. It's not. And so it's cultural and it's now endemic. And if I could change things, I would change the way we value the institution and look at it, and then I would prepare people differently. Children. I would hope that children would be exposed to, the things that they need to see and experience to know how to manage better with the person that you made this commitment with. And that's, that sounds like I'm preaching, but I'm not. I'm really a pragmatist about these things.
Right.
So. But it doesn't always work out, and that's okay too. But at some point, I think we gotta think about those things.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, you got anything else?
Nah, man.
Cool.
Good to see you.
Well,
I'll be at the wedding.
Yes, absolutely. You can check out Dana at Matrix Labs LLC.
Matrix Labs LLC. I'm gonna run a big sale and flush out a lot of the merchandise I have, and then recreate some stuff and do some different stuff. So stand by. I'm gonna put probably everything: posters and shirts, and maybe a few sweatshirts and some odds and ends that we've got left over up for sale. So you'll be able to get them real cheap. So I want to see all my friends on social media pimping my shit.
Well, see, here's every time I post a picture of me in my unicorn search and rescue shirt, every time somebody's like, "Where can I get that shirt?" And I'm like,
"Yep, MatrixLabsLLC.com.
Yep.
All proceeds go to a worthy cause. Me, me, and my need for ribeye and Pinot Noir and sushi. So I won't waste a dime of it. I promise you. And none of it's going to people that. None of it's going to shitty people. So
good deal. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you like the video, go ahead and click the like button. If you like me enough to see me again, go ahead and click the subscribe button. And just remember, when avoidance, deterrence, and de-escalation fail, a high rate of fire usually does it.